Welcome back to the Gin's Treasure. Today we're gonna do a ring. I feel like I haven't done a ring video in a while. What's gonna be unique about this ring video is that normally I do beads. However, I have seen these are called chip stones when they're tiny like this. And this specific stone is Dumortierite. And so what I want to do is, I've never done this before, but figure why not capture the first attempt on camera. And so what I'm going to do is start it out very similar to how I normally do the rings. And with that, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do, I have these two strands of 20 gauge wire, copper wire, and as well copper wire, this is 24 gauge wire. And it's about an arm's length. And then these two are maybe slightly smaller than a hand's length. So to begin, what we do is with the 24 gauge wire, we kiss the two tip ends together and then slide down to find that middle. And then with the middle, what we're gonna do is kind of eyeballing the middle. You could do the same thing with kissing the two tips to find exactly where the middle is, but I think with a wire as short as this, it's pretty easy to eyeball. And so what we're gonna do is take that middle loop from the 24 gauge wire and just drop it down, hanging on the middle of the 20 gauge wire. And from there, what I'm gonna do is with my right thumb and right index finger, I'm gonna pinch down, holding these three wires in place together, leaving my left hand free to begin the wrapping. And you wanna wrap it relatively tight, but not so tight that the wires begin to cross over each other like my fingers are doing. You want to keep them flat as they are right now. So after you get like a few, maybe like 5 wraps in, there's a technique to make it easier to maintain that flatness using the flat end of the pliers. You can see right there where my thumb is pointing, that's the flat end of the pliers. And we're just gonna pinch down right on where we've already wrapped, and then just with a firm grip, keep that locked in place as we continue to wrap. And if you notice, if you get any of these, you see how this last one, I did it intentionally. You see how this last wrap is like, these are all leading up to it, they're all tight, and then this last one is kind of loose. Just with your fingernail, you can just slide it into place, and then you can continue wrapping. And then once you get like another 6 or so wraps, then you just scoot the pliers over and then reaffirm your grip, and then continue onwards. Now we're gonna be doing a little bit of wrapping on each side. So right now I'm just working the one side, and I'll scoot over again and give a little pinch and then reaffirm the grip, making sure that the wires are not crossing. And then we continue to wrap on the one side, and then once I get a good amount of progress on this side, we're gonna flip over to the other side and begin wrapping on that side as well. And I want to keep in mind just how much I'm wrapping. At some point, I will stop and just measure with this ring sizer. And if you can see the numbers here, the average size for an American finger is 10. So obese, sorry. I think for me, I'm about a 7. I helped a guy build a ring yesterday, and he was at a 6. I usually shoot for somewhere between a 6 and 7. And then ironically, they tend to be, maybe not ironic, but just through the, I guess, lack of experience, they tend to stretch out and become wider anyway. So sometimes I might even shoot for like a 4 or a 5 and then have that ending up being more of a 6 anyways. It could be different with this new style of wrapping instead of a bead. We'll see when we get there. And the other thing to keep in mind as you wrap both sides is that these two 24 gauge wires, you want to keep them kind of symmetrical. So you can see this one is a little bit longer, so I have a little bit more ways to go. You want to keep them kind of like balanced and symmetrically lengthed. Keep the length symmetrically balanced is what I'm trying to say. And I think that should do it for getting the balance right. It looks like at some point the wires may have crossed over each other. If you can see how it just kind of twists. To resolve that, what I'm going to do is just pinch down with the pliers and gently turn and twist, just to have the two wires that are wrapped in the middle kind of realign. And then we're gonna kind of shape it, although we don't necessarily have to shape it with our fingers. That's kind of the whole idea. Well, one of the ideas behind this tool here. The other idea is to get the measurements right. So right about here, if I'm going for a 6, which I think I am, I want to get it a little bit more wrapped on each side so that the wrap finishes on the edge here, right before where the measuring portion begins. So I'm just gonna curve these out since it's already curved at the bottom here, just to give myself some room to wrap, room for my hand to get in there. I'm gonna do a little bit on the other side. Keeping in mind not to have the inner wires cross, which on this side they kind of stubbornly want to. And then I'll just go ahead and with the pliers flatten that out. Same thing on the other side, just to give a little pinch to keep it flat. And then from here, we're ready to begin the next step. What I'll do is split the two middle wires to create kind of like a Y or a V shape. And then from there, with the 24 gauge wire, I'm gonna wrap kind of like a figure 8. And just kind of weaving in and out between the two of them. Do this about 4 or 5 times, and then we'll do the same thing to the other side. Split the Y, weave in the middle, in and out. And then so from here, you can see how it's kind of a diamond shape in the middle, and then that's where the stone is gonna go. And so up until this point, everything is something that I've done before. So give me a little moment to think about how I'm gonna do this next part. What I am hoping to do is figure out a way for me to just wrap the wire using only these 24 gauge wires. And I'm thinking the stone is just gonna be like placed right in the middle like that. I think what I'll do is have these wires cross over each other. And then, so what it will end up doing is, so it'll look like a cross like this, right here. Only I'll bring that cross tighter down towards the ring here. And what I'm gonna do is, once I get it crossed, I'm gonna twist it around, and maybe even twice. So I did it out here just so you could see, just for more clarity of the visual. But as I bring it down, I do the same thing. I just do a little twist there. And that creates this bed or kind of a base so that the stone won't just drop through the bottom. And then from there, I'm just gonna take this wire and wrap it around this 20 gauge wire where it just kind of seems to naturally flow into. I want to kind of keep that tight. So I'm wrapping on this one. I'll do like 3 around just to keep it secure, and then I'll do the same thing on this one. So wrapping around 1, 2, and 3. And then now I have, I guess I'm gonna call it the bed, just something for the crystal to lay on top of. And I guess it kind of looks like from there, I don't necessarily need these 24 gauge wires anymore, so I'm just gonna clip them off. And then to tie in the stone, I'll just be using the 20 gauge wires. So anytime I clip, there's always gonna be this little pokey portion, and I just use the flat part to just kind of, for lack of a better term, wrench it or twist it. And by wrench, I just mean like I pinch down with the flat part of the pliers on the pokey and then twist around, kind of like what you would be doing to like tighten a bolt with a wrench, tighten a screw. And I'm careful not to, with my pliers placement, I'm careful not to like carelessly get in there and just kind of mess things up just to get the job done. I want to be sensitive to not bending any wires unnecessarily. So that's why it's a little bit of a tricky work here. All right, so now that we have the bed, what I'm gonna do is cross the 2 outer wires. And I don't think I'm gonna twist the cross, I'm just gonna leave them crossed. And then from there, I can lay the stone in place and then just bring, well, maybe I should cross them. Okay, so I'm gonna see how they're both crossed here, here, and here. I'm gonna twist just one time. And then, so from there, the ring is completely closed. So I'm just gonna massage it. Looks like it's right there at the halfway, like 6.5, between the 7 and the 6, which is perfect. And then that also helps kind of create the perfect circular shape of the stone as well. And I can see that as I tighten that, this middle, get it with the pliers, this middle cross here with the 24 gauge wire became loose. So it created this little window right here. I guess that's fine. Just as long as it's not like extremely loose and gonna get in the way of the finger coming through or have anything get caught on it. That's really the important part, is that nothing gets caught. Okay, so then from here, we're gonna place the stone down in the bed and then cross the two top wires over the top of the crystal, and then the same thing with the bottom. And the idea behind this is to get the stone locked in place, which is, again, this is a part that I've never done before, so it's a little tricky. But so far it looks good. I might have a little bit of extra wire. So what I'm gonna do is just, once the wire goes around the top of the crystal, then it's gonna wrap underneath. And then I think maybe I'll just do like a little spiral finish. So I'll start with the tip, curl the tip inwards, and then just continue spiraling. And that looks pretty nice. And then with the, oh, guess it's not tight enough yet. All right, so with the other wire on this end, I'm just gonna tuck it under the entire ring and have it come out the other end. And that's just to help lock the stone into place. So this is pretty tricky. It's gonna take a lot of like massaging with the fingers to really keep the stone in place, and it's good practice for your grip. And then so what I'm doing here is just another spiral or curl, and that's just to kind of finish the stone or finish the wire with a little bit of style. And I might do something with that later, but for now I think that will be all right. And then for the other side, I'm gonna do the same thing, only I'm gonna start with the one that wraps under the entire ring. And the reason I'm doing that is because this is the way to make the stone kind of securely wrapped in there. And then I'll just bring it back over the top, and then with the tip of the wire, once again, just do like a little curl. Little curl finish, and then with the last wire, it's gonna wrap around that curl, and then we'll do the same thing where we just do like a little spiral finish. Now that's a lot of wire kind of covering up the stone. I think that this is definitely a technique that needs to be perfected. But I think for now, this is a pretty good technique for learning how to wrap just like a chip stone into a ring. The one thing that I'm concerned about is where this wire comes under. It kind of pokes right there, and that'll get caught on your finger. So the best thing to do is you could just continue the curl as one option, or just kind of bend the wire so that it goes more flat instead of poking out. So the stone is locked in there. But the thing is that with this style, it kind of, the wire covers up the stone, which is something for the professionals. It's more of, to keep it more simple is to keep it more beautiful. So it's kind of like less wire is more, adds to the beauty more. But for now, I think that's a pretty good ring. I'll just put on that sizer one more time and just kind of help, I guess, test to make sure that the stone stays in place, because this kind of stretches it out a little bit. And it looks pretty good.